Welcome to the DentalCodeology Consortium meeting here on the 9th of June. I have it down as 60 minutes. I hope that we can stay within that. If we can't and you need to leave, I certainly understand that. We do have it. I am getting now the recordings turned around and online really quickly these days. So if you ever miss part of it, you can go back. Again, the advisory team is always there to support and help, and I'm thrilled that they're how do I say it? Have my back. It's not my back though; it's all of us. So Kathy, Jill, Linda, Noelle, Patty, and of course Paige. Noelle is not here and won't be here. She is she's out of the country, and Linda may or may not be. It depends on if her state is meeting or not. She wasn't sure if she's going to be here, but thanks to all of you. So I always call it the beret because I call you the people that choose to participate in the DentalCodeology Consortium. You're all insiders, but you know, this is another level, and you are the superheroes and the elite crew that wears the green beret. How's that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the names up there because I know some people aren't here yet. Melissa, Angela, Barb, everybody. And again, this is just a recognition that you're all here rather than going through the names and saying if you're here or not. We'll just go through it this way this time. This is when I mentioned the insiders content. The DentalCodeology website continues to evolve. I'm going to go over there live right now. And in this insider content, you're the only ones that get to see that. And there's where the consortium replays are. So there was the last one. And again, I'll have the other one tonight on as soon as possible. Now, what our decisions are, what we're going to need to make in our time together tonight is that how many submissions are we going to put into the CMC for 2021? Which ones are we going to choose? What group do you want to join or subgroup do you want to join? Who wants to be a subgroup leader? And which mentor of our leaders are we going to match with the subgroups? So those are all things that we're going to discuss. But before we do that, with ADHA, and I'm doing this, I don't see Siobhan yet here, but that's all right. We will get the information to her. Siobhan contacted me earlier this week because ADHA is discussing a specific definition for prophylaxis. And I think it's important that we consider if we want to offer some input. Siobhan said she will take it to the ADHA House of Delegates, HOD, and bring it from our group. This is the way the submission currently reads that's submitted to the House. Okay? Now, some of you that have done this many, many times are going, oh, yeah, we've seen this before. And others that this is new to. What's important to understand, this is a process thing, is that ADHA can only support the things that we have in policy that our group submits. But our group also helps influence where policy goes. This is one of those where I think this definition is really important to our future, particularly if we want to bring forward the prophylaxis codes again this year or next year. And so that's what the language is. The definition, as you can read it, the super and subjective removal of biofilm calculus extension contains from tooth structures to preserve health and prevent disease. Now, I know we have people on this call that were part of the subgroup for the submissions for this year on oral prophylaxis. And I pulled up the submissions that we had, even for me to look at them to see what we have written. And the main thing that I think seems to be missing is we had added disruption and removal of dental biofilm plaque calculus and stain. And that's what we have consistently with all of these submissions. Okay, even within here, it's the disruption and removal of dental biofilm, plaque calculus, and stain. So how do we feel about that as far as asking Siobhan to submit for a reworking, an editorial to change the language on this. Let me open it up to conversation.
Patty, this is Kathy Forbes.
I was going to you anyway if nobody else talked.
I know. I am so glad ADHA is at this. When we had our advisors meeting a couple weeks ago or whenever it was, our impression was the CMC did not want to create all those different Profi codes. So our thoughts were if we could come up with, keep the number DH 1110 and 1120 the same and change the definition. So this is a great start. One of my suggestions, and it's only because I've had a couple of hygienists send me questions, is that I would like in here where it says it's a preventative measure, not a therapeutic. Because remember, we're trying to get that Profi is more for the healthier dentition, periodontician, and therapeutic would be more the perio codes, that this is a preventive versus a therapeutic. I think we need to discern between those. So somewhere in there, I'd like to say the preventive measure of or something. I haven't thought that far ahead to how I'd write it, but I think we need to separate this preventive from therapeutic. That's my opinion.
Okay, it does say to prevent disease right there, preserve health and prevent disease.
But it's already, it's in the preventative section 2. And so I guess from a standpoint, there was one particular where they wanted to make, even though they were doing a 4346, the office wanted to change it to an 1110, and I commented, well, 4346 is therapeutic, 1110 is preventive, and I think it would help what do you call it? When you argue with an insurance company what the procedure was. My husband even had one where he had his perio maintenance done. They submitted a perio maintenance Cigna, changed it to an adult Profi. And so I loved that I could call them and talk to him. I said, that's not what they did. He had a therapeutic procedure following scaling and root planing, and actually they went back and investigated it and found out it was incorrectly changed to an 1110, so they were going to put it back to a 4910 based on what the procedure was. So that was interesting when, here's a point for Cigna, but I think qualifying this as preventative would be helpful down the road.
Liz Grillo, please talk on, please
So
say what you
Kathy.
say, Rip. Yeah. Who was that? Jill?
Yes, Kathy.
Yes.
So are you saying that you support this? But you'd like to see something different than prevent disease?
No, I think preventive, but maybe this is a preventative procedure, not therapeutic for the removal of, I just want to make it clear.
But Kathy, what about people that don't qualify, that how many people are 100% healthy? This is the discussion we had before.
Right.
It's always therapeutic.
Sure.
I mean, the literature does not support that a prophylaxis, as we've defined it with scaling and polishing, is actually preventive at all.
Okay. True. I will agree with that. Okay. Then I can withdraw my suggestion.
So
No.
okay. So are we saying that we are in favor of this resolution and write testimony to it, or what are we saying?
We're trying to decide if we want to have anything to say at all. Do we want, that's what Siobhan called me for, contacted me, is do we want to look at this, review this, and have anything from ADHA perspective, I mean, in the justification it mentions coding and CDT code book twice. Now, part of that, I think, is because of the work that we've been doing. But is this the same? Now, is what we wanted to say. What the point I was making is that when we did this, our committee, our subgroup did this, we didn't say just removal, because removal of biofilm almost makes it sound like we can do complete removal of biofilm, and we really can't. What we want to do is disrupt the biofilm so that it goes from a pathogenic biofilm to a biofilm that supports health. Now, that's way too wordy. So what we did is we talked about adding for the disruption. So that's at this point, that was my only suggestion.
Right.
So for the super and subgingival removal of biofilm, removal and or disruption or something of biofilm, that would follow what our submissions were the last time.
I would support that, Patty. I agree with you. We can't be 100% removal. Disruption and removal is a better descriptor of what we're doing.
So what if we said specifically the disruption of biofilm and the removal of plaque, calculus, and stain?
Right, but again, Patty, one of the things that we talked about when we did our committee was that we're trying to edge in a little bit at a time the different philosophy, because this emphasis on plaque, calculus, and stain is exactly what keeps us stuck where we are, especially when we start talking about lasers and all these other things where it's not just about, we know that disease is not just about the plaque, calculus, and stain, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got people writing in the chat box, but you know what Teresa Shepard say it out loud. Teresa?
Yes, I had some background noise here. That's why I decided to type. So it's always been my understanding, and I'm not a hygienist, that prophies are above the gum line, treatment is below the gum line.
Nope.
So
no, that's wrong.
Okay.
It's one of those things that's a myth that's been out there for a long time, Teresa. It was promulgated at one point by ADHA because it was but that was a matter of legislative. It really wasn't what the code said. Okay. Part of the reason was the legislative part of it was that because states were passing laws to allow other people to, without the same level of education and background as dental hygienists, to do supergingival scaling and polishing. Okay?
Right.
That's where, but it's not a supergingival thing, and it never has been. Was it, Kathy? Do you know any history where it ever said it's supergingival only?
I'm looking in the first CDT book that I just happened to have here. You read my mind. Hang on.
We know you, Kathy.
I know.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. For me, it doesn't make sense that it would only be supra, because even though you may not have a loss of attachment and you've got generally healthy tissue, you can have a little calculus spur here and there. It happens.
Well, I don't know. Nicole Fortune's here, and she just wrote the word no in the box. Now, the thing is with Nicole is the perioscopy expert. Nicole, come on, jump in here with us on this discussion.
Yeah, I just would like some clarification.
Sure. Yes, Teresa. So, well, first of all, we never get it all. Okay, that's never going to happen. And even Dr. Rethman had told me, even with an endoscope, which he's a huge fan, it's never completely 100% gone. So the idea that we are completely removing something really shouldn't be in our, in our thought process. But it is therapeutic treatment. When I see patients who are maintaining health, it is still a therapeutic treatment. This is, so I think that it is preventative. There's going to be a way that we can marry the two, like Patty was saying, to try and edge into redefining it to what it truly is. I don't know if that helps or not.
Hey, Patty, here's some from 1990. The ADA defined the adult prophylaxis. It refers to routine dental prophy performed on transitional or permanent dentition, includes scaling and polishing, procedures performed on dental patients in normal or good periodontal health to remove coronal plaque, calculus, and stains.
Oh, so it did say coronal one time.
Since pockets are absent in a completely normal periodontium, scaling and polishing are performed on the anatomic or clinical crowns and into very shallow, healthy sulci. So yeah, it was originally back in 1990, but it did change. I think it morphed about a couple years later. I've got it somewhere here.
It morphed. I know it morphed, and ADHA jumped in at one point because they added two words. It was scaling and or polishing.
Right.
And ADHA jumped on that one right away. That was got about 10, 12 years ago. Okay, so back to the discussion. And again,
sure.
This is again, do we want to add anything, say anything? There's a part of me that hopes that we as a group, Siobhan wants to represent and bring DCC to ADHA. Did I say any real words there? Anyway, so do we want her to add something, again, along the lines of what we said, for the disruption and removal of dental biofilm, plaque, calculus, and stain, versus the removal of biofilm, plaque, calculus, and stains? And again, somebody put extrinsic stains.
I think disruption should be there. It's just my opinion.
Okay, let's get somebody else.
Yeah, me too.
Patty Korecki?
Yes.
I see your microphone's on, that's why I'm calling you. Okay. What do you think?
I agree. I like the addition of the disruption, because that's where the literature is going, the studies.
Yep. Susan Cotton?
I agree, adding disruption.
Again, if we look at this, we also want to start thinking about our agendas for other things, including our implant management, including our laser, and disruption of biofilm, I think, is an important phrase. Does anybody disagree?
No. No, I don't disagree. No. I think adding, Jill? I don't disagree. I think that's something that should be added, and perhaps we could, for Siobhan to make her, we talked about this when we were in Boston. Hi, Nicole. Nicole was with me in Boston too. The super and subgingival removal and disruption of biofilm calculus. So if we could just insert after removal and disruption.
How does that sound? What I think we did here is, do you see how it's written here? For the disruption and removal?
I think
would we be just adding?
Right.
I believe disruption should be first.
So we would take and ask for a substitution to say, ask for a substitution. I'm sorry, change that. To add for disruption and removal of dental biofilm, plaque, calculus, and stain as a substitution for removal of blah blah blah.
Yep.
Right here.
Wait a minute. Go back to the PR again.
What is it we did?
Please.
The PR.
No, that's up there. So you're saying, go back to the PR that's up there for ADHA.
Got it. There you go.
Okay, so you're saying to put in disruption before removal. Is that what you're saying, Kathy?
Yes, because that's what you do first. You disrupt it, then you remove it.
Subgingival. So what she can do is that she can vote for this and our support, and then with an amendment to insert after subgingival disruption and removal of biofilm and calculus. That's what I could tell her to put in.
I think I'd like to clarify that.
How does that sound?
It's
all right.
I'm the word person here. I would rather see the disruption and removal of supra and subgingival dental biofilm, plaque, calculus, and stains. So the disruption and removal of supra and subgingival biofilm, calculus, and stains.
Okay.
Plaque,
So
biofilm,
the
plaque,
disruption
calculus,
and removal of
of
supragingival, go right in here.
after of.
Super and subgingival, dental biofilm, plaque, calculus, and stain. Yes?
Yes, yes, that format's a lot better if you had to draw out how the sentence structure should be. Now, to preserve health and prevent disease, I think it's fine. I mean.
Anybody have any thoughts on keep that?
Wait a minute. Read that one more time. Read that, Kathy, say what you said one more time.
The disruption and removal of supra and subgingival biofilm, or dental biofilm, plaque, calculus, and stains. Or you could put extrinsic stains.
Disruption, removable
Of supra and subgingival dental biofilm, plaque, calculus, and extrinsic stains from two structures to preserve health and prevent disease.
I think that's changing the whole thing. So that's writing a new amendment there because you're.
No, we're just wordsmithing
really.
things around. We're
Changing
adding
word order.
We're just changing the word order and adding the word disruption.
Yep.
And I want to say, through when we wrote those others, dental biofilm has to have that dental because there's biofilm in water lines. There's biofilm in, CPAP machines. There's biofilm. So to say dental biofilm was very purposeful when we wrote these original ones.
So this is Tasha, if we agree that it is therapeutic, is there a need to leave to preserve health and prevent? If we agree that it is already therapeutic?
I think it's redundant. Hello. Do you want me to type it in the box?
Somebody had a cricket sound.
Yes.
That was my.
Yes, please type it in the box.
I'll type it in the box. Yes, I'm sorry. That was my text. They're looking for a sub for my clinic tomorrow, and it's working. Okay, I will put it in the box.
Seems like we've got everybody likes disruption, definitely. And again, Jill, are you going to be on the House floor with your delegation, or is this going to be a coaching thing?
No, it's a coaching thing.
Okay, got it.
Write it down. I can write it out. I can send it to her, and then, or whoever sends it to her, and then she can present it at the first House.
Let me see. Okay.
Can somebody send Paige? Paige is having a hard time getting on.
I am.
Okay.
Okay. I know. I was trying to do that when that's what I was listening to. I was trying to do that when I was trying to listen to this too.
I'm sending it to her. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Are we good on this one then? Because
Thanks.
we got to move on. We got a lot to decide tonight, guys.
I just put it in the chat box.
We're good. We're good.
It's in the chat box.
I just want to confirm that we're keeping the preserve health, right?
If you want to.
Right, but that could be
I think we should, because otherwise then the docs are going to be saying, oh, well, if you're going down to get it on a prophy, it's not really a scaling because you go below the gum line in prophy.
Right.
So I think preserving health is very important to keep in there, especially when explaining to a patient, well, this is for healthy, and you can actually show them, here's the preserved health.
Right, but is this for explaining to the patient, or is this for the code book and textbooks and dictionaries, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, for code book, for anybody that reads the code, it clearly states that this is preserving health, so the patient's condition is healthy.
Right, I think we're mixing up things here, though. This is the definition to go in a glossary.
I know.
So for a definition that goes in the glossary, to keep to preserve health and prevent disease makes sense to me. From a coding perspective, we might do it a different way.
Yeah, definitely in the glossary to preserve health. So it's clearly understood that this is a procedure that's done in a healthy situation.
Not in a healthy situation, because there's no reason to do a prophylaxis in health, but who's 100% healthy. I know I keep hitting that one,
Right.
but that's because of, that's where, until we get in, stop using the language that we're doing a prophylaxis when somebody is healthy, the thinking is going to continue how it's always been. People either have greater than 30% inflammation or less than 30% inflammation. Having zero and being completely healthy is a single point in time that very few of us are at, including everybody on this phone call. And we're good. Okay, I'm moving forward. Gotta move forward, guys. Okay, so we will get that together. We'll get that to Siobhan. Just gotta get it to her ASAP. Okay, so let's talk about our timeline for 2020. Just to remind you, we have the CMC. It's not on the 5th or 6th. It's on the 12th and 13th of 2020. We have to get we've got to get our submissions in by the November 1st. But that's not when we're going to get our submissions ready by. We need to have them ready much sooner than that. If we want to create a recipe, do you like that new thing I created there, DCC cookbook, our recipe for success? You've got to build partnerships and coalitions. You build the partnerships and coalitions when you have something as a beginning place to talk to them about. But you don't do that when it's 2 minutes before the meeting, because one of the things that we have definitely learned is this stuff. The people that are there on the committee, on the CMC voting, they're voting based on what their membership wants. And they have a little flex when they're there, but they can't flex on major stuff because it's already been brought to their association and decided by their association. So that's why we've got to do it in advance. So the timelines for submissions for the workbooks, work groups has got to be that we have our initial submissions, our initial ideas together by July 15th, which is about 5 weeks from now. Now, that might sound daunting in some ways. I don't think it's going to be. That's why we did the Survey Monkey. And thank you to everybody that did participate. We did get 50 responses. Now, to create that, what we did is we went back to our strategic plan, which is what this document is, and we use these things that we have listed as our gaps in our codes, which were those. Those we identified a year ago. We have some other ones now that we've had in addition to that, and we want to talk about some of the accomplishments that we've already had on this. But here is the first result of the survey was that the number one issue that we want to bring forward again is lasers. The second is implant maintenance. The third is the provider type language. The next one is the specialized oral hygiene assistance. Then prophylaxis category. So that's part of the reason why I let that discussion go as long, because none of us really want to go back there again yet. And then the last one is teledentistry. That's what's a little confusing about that is the least amount. So again, lasers is where we want to go. One of the things I wanted to mention that I know I kind of forgot is that specialized oral hygiene assistance, I don't know if this would qualify for whatever we were thinking, but there was a new code that was passed. We just got today, just this week, Kathy, you probably got it too. We got the book, we got the, those of us with licenses got the language and the code numbers. And what happened this year is they added to the dental case management codes. And as you can see, it's for patient with special health care needs. And, excuse me. As you can read there, it's special treatment considerations when a patient individuals with physical, mental, developmental, or cognitive conditions resulting in substantial functional limitations which require the modifications to be made to delivery of treatment to provide comprehensive oral health services. Now, does that cover whatever we thought we were trying to say by the specialized oral hygiene, really ill, hospitalized, or disabled persons? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
This is Jamie. One thought I had on that is, what about those patients that say are in home or specialized care facilities? Is this going to cover them, or should we be looking at creating a code that is specific for that versus the ones that can make it into the office?
It's a great question, to which, again, this is a case management code. Now, that doesn't say where the case is done, but who was just talking there?
It's Jamie.
Katie, thank you. Thank you. And there, again, there is a place on the claim form for location of treatment. And does it need to be, do we want to consider having a code to identify the place as differentiated from that code? Not code, it's not a code, it's a location. I know I became more cognizant of it with teledentistry, because teledentistry, so it actually is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid that create those location codes, and there are location codes, and that goes on a different part of the form. Is that what you were talking about, Katie?
Jamie, Patty, Amy Collins. No, I was thinking, like, say we have patients that can't leave the healthcare facility. So I'm looking at going out into those facilities to treat them. Is there a different code we can look at for that? Or you look at something like Little City there in Chicago, or the area that Carol does. I mean, is there specific codes that would apply to her that may really differentiate that for the special needs?
I think Patty and Kathy that were at the meeting, I don't think Linda's here. Do you remember in the discussion, I think that's what they're trying to do with this one?
I don't have my notes, but I think you're right. Shoot.
That sounds right. But
because they spent a real lot of time talking about getting these words appropriate.
Yeah.
That part I remember. One of the things that I think is one of the issues is that these case management codes have been around. I think the first ones came in about 3 or 4 years ago, and they're not even most people don't even know they're there. But there are specific, I think there's 4 of them or 5 of them now, that are case management codes for when you have those different kind of circumstances of different cases that you're managing. So that's and I think what that might be is, if what you're talking about might be a whole nother code. Anybody else have any thoughts here?
You know, what might be worthwhile, didn't they say that people were calling, ADA said that people were calling them and asking for clarification on some of this stuff? Yeah. And maybe we need to call and say, hey, so you wouldn't give us a code, what's this, how do I do this? Okay. And put the onus on them so that they learn that there are people who are asking these questions.
Right. Right. But I guess what I'm trying to get to is, again, with Little City, with the Aunt Martha's or whatever, again, that's the one I'm familiar with, that's here in Chicago area. Wouldn't this be a code for if you're going out? Now, Teresa Shepard, with what you're doing with teledentistry, would you use a teledentistry code and maybe a code like this if you're seeing a special population that you're going out to?
Yeah, the teledentistry code we're using basically for transmittal purposes and identification. So I love a code like this.
Yeah. And this is not well understood. It'll be interesting to see how it's explained in the CDT companion when it comes out. But anyway, again, I just brought this up to introduce it because when we voted on this to actually have this as one of the things that we wanted, was this what we were talking about? Any other thoughts? Because we're not voting on any of this stuff right now. We're going to decide later on which we're going to accept. The other one, Susan Cotton, are you ready? Because with the ones that we talked about, in addition to the ones that we voted on here, we asked if they had any other submissions, and Susan felt very strongly about this. So Susan, you're here, so why don't I let you talk about where you're going with this?
Sure. So, you know, in medical, every medical screening, cancer screening, has its own coding, its own individualized code and charge for that. Here we are in dentistry with our cancer reaching epidemic numbers, and this screening is, in my mind, it's thrown in with an exam. The exam has so many different things going on under that exam. It's time that dentistry remove the head and neck, oropharyngeal cancer screening from the exam and have it separated.
Okay, when we vote on this a little later, I'm going to give you a little, but what you're saying is important things there. You said where we are now, where research is now, our epidemic proportions, that's one of the reasons why you think that this needs to be.
Well,
it's because the way we're currently doing isn't getting it any better, where our numbers are no better.
Right, and the screening is not being done as it should be. Not consistent. It's not always done by providers. It just isn't.
Okay, great. So that's another one for us to consider. Another for us to consider, and Nicole, because you're here, I'm going to ask you to say, I mean, I know that Melissa uses biofilm management, and you use that in the world that you guys speak in a very specific way. And Melissa put this on as a code. She wants to see what do you understand and what she might be saying here.
Boy.
No pressure, Nicole.
Let's see. Let me put my mind reading glasses. No, just kidding. I haven't talked with Melissa in a while, unfortunately, but I would assume, I mean, we all do biofilm management, and we also discuss this at length in the trainings that we do, like you said, and I'm assuming that she's likely discussing the importance of biofilm management being folded into the definition of our preventative / therapeutic procedures. I don't think that she's looking for a separate code altogether, but looking for that wording.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Does Jill know? Jill,
so we have some things that we've done in this arena before, so that's why I thought if you had any further thoughts on what you might be saying. So again, I'm just presenting these as the ones that are our options. The other thing that literally we kind of did is assumed that we were going to do this because of what happened at the committee. And for those of you that might not have been in the meeting, the last meeting that we had, is we had submitted this kind of as a little bit of a, let's see if we can get something by here. And the committee, the CMC came down and said, no, tobacco counseling needs to stay its own code. But then the person from the Public Health Dentistry Association really jumped on this, and they tried to write a code on the fly for this because of the opioid epidemic. She almost didn't want this year's meeting to end until we had something. And it didn't get done, but this is one where we really have opportunity to work with the Public Health Association as well as other groups. So this is one that was not on the survey, but I think has some, we definitely want to do this. We were told to do this, actually. Weren't we, Kathy? Did the CMC specifically say we'll work on it? Kathy?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, we were directed to work with, it's Dr. Cheryl Herman to rewrite this and bring it back. So we have been given that directive.
Right. Which is a big thing because we were recognized that way, our group specifically. So that's, again, the things that we have to consider. We still have to decide which one of those we're going to do. One of the things that we asked you as a beginning thing to help us have different outcomes is if you have connections with other groups, organizations, etc. Kind of a thrilled to see that we do have some people, and they've come and some of them have contacted us, that we have 8% of people that have some connection to third parties, as well as other like-minded coalitions, etc., etc. So we have a lot of potential here by looking at the relationships that we already have. The next survey question was, would you be interested in being mentored to interact as a liaison to establish and maintain contact with other groups? What we're going for here is something very, well, it's a shift and different from the way we've done it the last couple of years, because we want to get different outcomes. We need to approach things differently. And the liaison is someone that will take the lead. Really, it's going to be a group leader, a subgroup leader, as well as liaison. Not all that person doing everything. This is the beginning of that, and I'll explain that more as we go forward. What's interesting, though, a lot of you guys don't want to talk to third parties. That was the least one. Well, we had the greatest number of people looking at maybe talking other professional organizations or like-minded coalitions. So that's where that result was. This was, we wanted to, again, to help the subgroup leaders to once again survey the day of the week that works best for most of us. Okay, so it's still Sunday, Tuesday, Monday. So anybody that's going to lead a subgroup, remember that, because if we throw these meetings and it just doesn't work for most of us on the other days, that's really what that result was. Now, this is very big, and I'm not going to be able to explain it completely because Noelle Paschke has taken the lead on this. One of the things that we learned, hands down, probably this year even more so than last year, was if we don't have people that are really knowledgeable about the submissions that we specifically have, we can't do them justice. So we thought about creatively how we can get more people there. And so the question as you see it and as you answered is, if there was travel and lodging in Chicago for the CMC, would you apply for a grant? Now, as you see, 54% of you said you would, of the ones that answered. So what Noelle said, and this became a thing because this is, my group it's a separate, it's a separate business entity. We started going, okay, how's this money gonna work? And ADHA is not the only organization. Natalie, we are not ignoring assistants. Natalie's here. We're not ignoring assistants. We're not ignoring the dentists. We're not ignoring, it's just that we have the most connection with ADHA as those of us that are in leadership. Anyway, Noelle went to ADHA and asked if they would be interested in managing a grant. What we're saying is that we've come up with some innovative ways that we can do fundraising over the course of the year. For example, when I speak, I have a crown seating chair, a subscription to LexiComp, et cetera, that we raise funds with. And the group, all the money is usually donated to the group. Well, what we've talked about doing is doing a fundraising thing like that, but the money goes toward funding people that will go to the CMC. And other innovative ways of doing some webinars and some other things. The first thing with ADHA is they are very interested in this. And the reason why that's important is because that takes care of the financial aspect of it, of it not coming into my money, my business. It needed to stay separate than that. Again, and Noelle can explain it further, but it has some great possibility. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So, decisions to make. Let's first look at how many submissions we want to do and which one. That's the next thing. That's why I briefly went over them. One of the things when we start thinking through these is in order to resubmit or bring something back that we've done before, there is some specific parameters that the CMC has that you can read there. A declined request can be resubmitted, but it must include new information not available when the original change request was prepared. Okay, so we can't just like, okay, we'll just send that same stuff in next year and see how we get. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, so these are the choices. I listed the 5 that we had on the survey, plus I added the oral cancer evaluation, biofilm management, and then the use of non-therapeutic drugs. Are there any ones that we want to immediately eliminate? Nancy Brohan, what's your opinion? For picking on a girlfriend.
Don't you do that.
I know y'all guys.
I don't know. One of the things, if I might interject about that biofilm management, we did submit a code for air polishing.
That's coming up.
And the CMC directed us to, I'd have to look it up, a 6,000 code that we're supposed to be using for air polishing. But the thing is, if you read it, it really doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't.
So that's.
I have that slide up coming up there, coming up in the thing. Okay.
All right. But that's one that I think definitely anything to do with biofilm management. I am finding, I think we have a good chance with any new implant maintenance codes, and it was obvious that Dr. Marie from AAP, they got shot down on their implant submissions. And I think if we could reach out to that organization with some of the things that we came up with, I think we have a good chance of getting some collaboration there on implant maintenance codes.
Okay, I was asking about what should be eliminated. Let's talk about.
I know.
Are we in agreement as a group that we have voted on these 6, that 5 and 6, do we want to go and do anything more with Profi codes now that we're going to possibly have in policy from ADHA? Does that change it? And 6 on teledentistry. Does anybody have any? Because again, can we bring 9 different categories? Do we want to bring 9 different categories? That's what I'm trying to get to. I mean, I know what my opinion is, but this isn't the Patty show. It's all of you. And there's no wrong opinion. So Jamie, I'm picking on you now. Jamie Collins?
Yep.
What you thought?
My thought
was Susie Brzezinski left because she knew I was going to call on her. Okay, go ahead.
My thought on teledentistry is, what more can we add to it right at this moment? Because it's still, people are still trying to grasp. So, you know, I'm not real sure what more we can add to it. My other thought was on option number 9 here, Patty. Did we talk a while back about in last year's CMC meeting talking about, say, vaping? Is that going to fit under that use of non-therapeutic drugs counseling?
Yep, it absolutely is.
Okay, because I think that's going to be a hot ticket item. Is it still?
Okay. Since we know that the one that's actually doing some teledentistry here is Teresa, what do you think about it? Is there any other codes at this time, even for the little bits that you're doing it so far, that you think that we need to add or change or anything?
I don't think so. I think that because, I mean, basically the teledentistry codes is just a way to identify that it's teledentistry versus, you know, virtually versus, you know, in-house. But I'm more interested in some of the situations that we end up with on patients that aren't ideal, and you're really kind of providing less than you would if you were in practice, because for some it's a quality of life issue. And so I'm more okay with trying to figure out like the biofilm management and maybe the more of the Profi codes and the specialized assistance. I'm looking at more of what can we do clinically versus reportedly.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. The only thing I've ever heard
and
even
this is
potentially
Jill.
somebody wanted was a code for the actual transference. That came up as a discussion, whether it's for x-rays or for whatever, but because there's not a specific code when you're transferring those records or whatever. But again, I think it's too early too for anything further.
Patty, having been at the last couple of meetings.
This is Jill.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jill.
Okay, this is about our choices here. As much as I love lasers and they are my heart and soul, I think that I don't know if we're beating a dead horse right now, and to concentrate on something else. I don't know what else we can put in there that they're going to put down because it's a modality that they're thinking it's just a modality. So I don't know. I mean, being on it for the last 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And way before, I don't know if I don't know how the group feels, but we have written different things on it, and it's just they just shoot it down every time. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, should we concentrate on that? I know it was the number one there in popularity, but I'm just unsure of that. That's my thought.
I did this is where I went in and I went back and I looked at our submissions and I couldn't find what the CDC actually wrote, but I did find what I wrote as what happened when we were there 2 years ago. Someone said there was lack of evidence for it. Now, Jeanette Miranda got up and spoke very eloquently. Ms. Braverman read the ADHA policy, but that was it, guys. This went less than nowhere. And that's the reality of it. Okay.
And I think even though
I think the only way that we can get any help with that is if we have some other organization like the Laser Academy or the Osteology Academy or something like that would help back us on that as far as scientific evidence and all of that sort of thing. Because it, like you said, it went nowhere. It just went nowhere.
And it was nowhere after about the third or fourth year in a row. There was one conversation that Patty D and I had with Marie, who said that, and again, I'm quoting her, she said Millennium Lasers screwed that up for everybody. And again, I'm not trying to pick on any company or anything like that, but that's where AAT is coming from, and that's... Okay, here's the other question. Is there any new research out there that would be significantly different to support in a way that we might not have had 2 years ago?
If I can just interject, having been at those meetings, it isn't, if there's any hint, let me back up. They're looking at a procedure that isn't already identified. And if they even think that only a laser can do that procedure, they're going to vote it down. So we have to come from the perspective, what can we do with lasers clinically that is not in any other code? We can't come in saying we want laser codes. The minute they're going to say no on that. So it's the result. We need, if we're going to do that. But I agree with you, Jill, and that, you know, this is what, 4 or 5 years, Patty. They just they assume it's a laser, they're going to vote it down, and maybe we need to step back because we presented something the last 2 years and it's voted down. Maybe we need to pull back on that one.
No, we didn't present anything this year.
We didn't.
No.
Oh, that's right.
But Jamie Collins, what do you say? I see you've got a comment in the chat box, please. Jamie?
Sorry, Patty, had a knock at the door, answered it real quick. My thought on the lasers is, yes, we've approached this year after year, and it's gone nowhere. What about taking a year to table it and really look at building those alliances over this next year and look at revisiting it next year? If we can find, you know, an organization or really create a good alliance and go at this together, it may be more effective.
Okay. Tasha, can I pull you in here? Aren't you bringing lasers into your DSO?
Up until this point, we have not.
Okay.
And I think part of it has been the conversation about the evidence and the coding, but currently we do not. And so I'm kind of with the others and saying maybe we should table it. More so my perspective, I don't have enough research, but I feel like we've presented it and they've pushed back.
Well, we presented it once, but it was presented again in the years before that over and
Yes.
over again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, does anybody feel differently? Does lasers come off the list?
I need one double cheeseburger with extra mustard. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Is lasers coming off the list? Anybody have a problem with that?
one #1 combo
Tasha,
No.
we're getting your order.
with Diet Dr. Pepper.
Sorry, that's not me, Patty. That's someone
Okay,
else.
somebody is giving your food order online here.
Right.
Okay, so what about with the special oral hygiene assistance? Is that new code enough until we find out more about how that's going to work? Because what would we want to submit, or what committee would it be? I don't even know what to ask here. Thoughts?
Wouldn't
I
that,
don't have enough information on that.
Is that the
Yeah,
one you're
committee.
talking about, the new code they want us to work with the public health? Is that what that would go
No.
under? No. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought it did. I didn't exactly know what it meant, like even on our list in our strategic plan. I just pulled it off of there. But to me, the way it reads in our strategic plan, if there's something we said before, is we want to have, it almost said to me, we wanted to have something that would be for special needs and those special other circumstances other than our standard circumstance. Anybody have any thoughts?
Patty, this is Tasha. I was going to say maybe it would be good to read the companion when, the rest of us get it to see what that new code really entails.
I gave you all we have so far. And again, whether or not the companion says anything, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Remember, that's the chapter that I wrote. And this, again, from those of us that were at the committee meeting, I don't remember any big of the reasons other than they spent a real lot of time trying to get the non-offensive, for lack of a better word, correct language for, again, people with, I'm not going to try and read it again, but thoughts, anybody?
If it's that confusing, maybe we need to investigate some more.
Okay. I'm going to take it off then.
Hi, this is yeah, I definitely agree. I think that we should take it off 100% because we don't know enough about it.
Yeah, we don't. The next one here, I'm skipping implant maintenance for a reason, but we'll go back to that. But one of the things I wanted to point out is that we went for a change of language. We tried to do an end around this year, and we tried to get it changed from the dentist, and rather than going at it completely, we tried to do it through the perio maintenance, and it was rejected, as you can see. And this was said a couple of times, wasn't it, Kathy and Patty, that it's recognized that the state legislature and regulation dictates the ability of any practitioner to live any dental procedure, blah, blah, blah. So with that being said, even though we voted that we want to remove provider language, is it a year to take off for that one?
Having sat in the heat of it, I say absolutely. The fact that I've already been writing letters back to hygienists with questions about it, that the statement was you can bill it, state practice acts trump CDT code definitions, end quote. And I'm spreading that word like crazy, and talked with even Sharon Smith, who works with Delta Dental here in Colorado, and she says, we pay perio maintenance all the time, hygienists, because we've got about 80 direct access practices they send benefits for, and they says they don't think about anything who's doing it. They're doing the procedure as by the definition. Now, I did have a hygienist from another state write me a letter last week where they had been turned down because she did the procedure. And anyway, I think that statement about trumping the definition that state practice acts would hold us to where we can pull back out of spending our efforts on.
I know it's not their fault, but that's ridiculous.
Hello, somebody, we're getting some cross here.
Yeah, hard to talk. Anyway, so my opinion would be to, put that on hold. Let's see what they come up with, if anything. But it's from my point of view, it's a moot point. If your state practice act allows you to do any of the procedures, no matter whether it says dentist only or whoever, state practice. So there you go.
Okay. I'm going to ask Jennifer Z from Washington. Jennifer, with all you've been doing legislatively out in Washington, is there any reason or any concerns or at all that you might have about changing anything with this? Or should we go for it, not go for it? What do you think?
I think going for it would be good. Definitely.
Okay. Okay, why do you think it'd be good? Based on what we've talked about already.
More support. So we have something else to utilize when we're dealing with those who think that it's okay for anyone to do it.
Okay, so what I hear you advocating for then is because the words that are important to you is in accordance with the State Practice Acts.
Yes.
Okay, okay. That's an interesting point of view. Wouldn't you all agree?
Mm-hmm.
Is there, what kind of research or what kind of support, if we were going to support the importance of that, what could we use as far as testimony? Just in general.
That becomes the conundrum.
Patty, we could always submit, and I'd have to talk to ADA headquarters in terms of how to do it, but it's not a code change per se, but it's a resolution asking them to whatever the word is, take out any reference to any specific provider throughout the manual based on what is it, or in the manual says something about it, goes by state practice. Just pull out all the references that they've made to State Practice Act and say, just clean up the whole manual. And I've been through the manual and cite pages. On this page it says this, on this, I got bored one night. This page it says this provider.
Kathy, you need a life.
I know. No, it beats Ambien. Get some sleep. But
okay, so based on this, we want to leave this in that we want to keep a subgroup then to work on this. When I say choices, these aren't necessarily we're going to submit this, submit that. These are the directions. So at this point, do we want to leave it in? Does anybody see it differently? Thank you, Jennifer, for that perspective. It's really important.
Definitely.
Anybody else that's working specifically in your state on legislation that you can see where this could be important? All right, let's leave it in. Okay, let's go to more Profi codes. Are we going to do more Profi codes, or do we want to hold off because we worked really hard on it and it got nowhere this year? I'm not saying one way or the other. What do you think? Lisa Funk, what do you think? Okay.
Hi, this is Liz. I think you guys have worked a lot on Profi codes, and I think that we should maybe leave it and then revisit it next year.
Okay. Who could we, again, I know this is just off the top of my head, but who do you think we could work with as far as maybe building coalitions on this one? Because we tried to work with AAPD.
The pediatric. Yeah, the pediatric.
Because it seems like they most want it, but maybe should we leave this on for coalition building?
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, okay.
This is Lisa Funk. I think we should leave it on also.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, then that's left on. Anybody have any other points of view? Okay, how do all of us feel about the oral cancer evaluation?
Yes. I'm with you there, Susan, I tell you. Yes.
Yeah, 100% yes, I agree. It's about time. It's been way too long where it's integrated as part of a normal intra and extraoral exam as part of the dental, the 00120, and I think it should be a completely separate code.
Yeah,
And
thank
we
you.
certainly will have the research and the documentation to support that.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, the decision was made, I think, if I remember the dates historically, when the adjunctive code came in, it was probably at around 2000, 2001, in that early era. Okay, because Invisalign was the only one that qualified under when it first came in. It was around that time when the submissions came in to have a unique code. And at the time, the committee decided to use it, put the language into the other codes and made them inclusive. But I think what we're all saying, and I think we all understand, is it didn't make any difference. But this is where I'm going to be specific in who I asked to lead that committee. Susan, think about it.
Yeah,
that was really
yeah.
subtle, huh?
Twist my arm.
Well, do you have, again, it was, this is your baby. This is your baby. And this is, and part of, well, when I talk about the committee chairs and who needs to be at the meetings, this is where your advocacy comes in. Now, the implant maintenance, we felt like we had the most opportunity this year with implant maintenance. What do we think about bringing them back for 2019 or 2020? 2021. What do you think about bringing them back?
I am so for it. I think we just need to revise how we approach it, and getting the AAP in on it, since theirs got shot down. I think it would be a great opportunity to work with them to support this.
Yeah,
Lucy, what do you think? What's the Wisconsin point of view, Lucy?
Most of the cases that I see are more like individual single implant. There's like one to a few implants in someone's mouth. I'm not seeing the complicated cases, but I really believe that for those that are seeing the more complicated cases, we really need codes for that, because they're not teeth, and we're not, we need codes for that.
Yeah. Thank you. So anybody else, anybody see that we should take a year off from these?
No.
No.
I
think the idea is...
Okay. I think there's some other parts of what we look at with our submissions, though, to consider when we do that. Biofilm management is something we did bring forward before. This is where, again, let's talk about this. This is the submission that we did, the same one as we did the lasers. This was the other submission. Now, we worked really hard to get the language on this so it didn't sound like subgingival air polishing alone or whatever, because it really truly is biofilm management. Noelle, by that point, this was not this year, it was the year before. Noelle really read the room, and by that time, Kathy had been beat up so much already. But Noelle got up. She offered an amendment, talked about it from a research, talked about it from a safety. And the thing is that she offered the idea of an amendment, and nobody stood up for us. Okay? Now, and Marie said it's a technique, it should be coded, code already exists, Bob is the guy from NADP. He said it was just a technique. Yet, what do you think about when we keep the implants? This is another one we discussed with, okay, we're never going to use the word laser up there because it didn't have to do with laser. Anyway, about keeping this one to kind of do in conjunction with the implant stuff with AAP. Hello? Jill? Jill, are you still there?
I'm here. So what are you saying? What do you want to do here?
I'm thinking
keep that code on implants or keep the code on biofilm?
Keep both of them. Use both the biofilm, the implant and biofilm, and use these. Oh, Melissa. All right, Melissa.
Yeah.
Melissa.
Did you read Melissa's what she wrote?
Is she on?
I don't know if she's on.
She just got on. She just got on.
I don't think she's on. No, I don't think she's on. Oh, did she?
Yeah, she just got on now. Oh. Melissa? I think I'm talking about this as a strategy. If we decide we're going to bring the implant space back, this is again, do we think that this is something that AAP might get on with us? Because who else would be an ally on this? We're not talking
Melissa, I don't know if Melissa said to have a code for biofilm management rather than trying to get an air polishing code.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here.
Have 4 oral health in between care appointments.
See, the thing is, I think we have grounds with the implant maintenance and this, because their rationale for rejecting was saying that all these implant codes should be coded the 60-80 implant maintenance procedures when prostheses are removed and reinserted. Right. And the thing is, we can say, well, what about those that aren't removed and aren't, we can bring up, we have the rationale to justify the fact that, no, thank you for giving us that direction last year, but you're wrong, and give them.
That's right.
But, yeah, I love using their words against them. Oh, sorry, that's being recorded, isn't it?
That's okay. I'm not ashamed of anything we're saying. And again, maybe this was...
leave both of those.
Hi,
Melissa.
I just realized
there she is.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm glad you're here.
So thank you. I'm sorry. You don't need to know all the craziness that I had this weekend. But anyway, not only is what Patty said right, that they're not all removed, like it's just ridiculous to me that was a rationale for rejecting it. There's so many cases that aren't fully removable. So how do you pigeonhole every single implant patient in this world so that not only do we see if we have allies at AAP, but do we have allies at ICOI? Do we have allies at ADIA? There's so many different, or AAD. There's so many different, and I'm brain dead right now, so I'm probably saying it wrong, but there's so many different implants subsects with the dental arena that there's so many people we could be speaking to and trying to get somebody on board with us.
Okay, when you did the survey, you had written biofilm management, which I added up here, and before I was making Nicole answer for you, make something up about what you actually meant by biofilm management.
Well, what I was thinking was...
Yeah, go ahead.
We
had had one before that we were talking about. Again, our emphasis was trying to be subgingival biofilm, and we were talking about the air polishing or air whatever.
Right.
When you say biofilm management, is that the direction? Because is that a procedure? I guess what I'm trying to get is, what are we trying to say with biofilm management?
Well, what my thought process is that I know that Noelle worked really hard on trying to get that code to go through with, coming at it with the air polishing approach. And I'm just thinking that if we attack it in a different way, just looking at it, saying that we're disrupting biofilm and connecting the oral systemic link to that, because Yeah, in a traditional world, it's great to see patients every 3 months, every 6 months, or every 4 months. But some patients would strongly benefit, especially if they have some kind of oral health, some kind of systemic health where the biofilm in their mouth could be putting that at risk, like a diabetic patient who's maybe a little bit out of control at the time. We could be seeing them in the interim where all we're doing is going through with our airflow or air and go and debriding biofilm, not touching them with a scaler, nothing else, but just removing biofilm. It would be so stinking amazing if we had a code for that.
So let's just start with what's here. It's disruption of subgingival biofilm for medically, dentally compromised, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, that would be beautiful.
Okay. All right, then that's, again, does everybody agree that we have enough to at least warrant a subgroup on this?
Looks like it.
Anybody have any issues with not doing it? Okay, all right. So we have the biofilm management as well as implant maintenance, and those, we may put those together because an awful lot of the implant maintenance stuff is already done. So it's this is where the coalition building becomes more the issue. So then the final thing is, of course, the non-therapeutic products, and we already said we were going to have that. So as I say this, we want to take this, because I'm trying to look at how many subgroups that we need to create. So, okay. Hello.
I think your idea of putting biofilm management with the implant maintenance is a good idea. I just think that's a good idea.
Okay, so what we're looking here then is to have 5 groups. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Some groups, again, the ProfiCubs may be just more the coalition building and not resubmitting, but that'll be the work of the subgroup to figure that out. Oral cancer, that's an obvious one. Non-therapeutic products, that's where Jamie, because of what you're talking about with vaping, I'm going to ask you to be involved with that. But let me give you an idea of where we're going, I believe, what we need to do to create that recipe for success. I think that we need to, again, look at the partnerships along with our subgroups. And the decision for each of us involved is, do you want to join a subgroup? Which subgroup might that be? Who's going to be the mentor for that subgroup? Now, before we go farther in that discussion, here's the structure. And again, I'm open to all of this. I didn't even have a chance to check with anybody besides me. I made this up. Is that subgroup becomes, rather than calling it a chair, you become an overall liaison. And you're a liaison to the members of that group, liaison to a meeting, as well as the head liaison to other groups. The mentor works with the liaison, support position only, and the mentors, we're talking about the Jill, Kathy, me, Patty, those guys. So this is what I'm talking about as far as what the structure is. Yet what the role of that liaison is to lead, again, other connections. But this is a key one. To attend the CMC. We need people that are going to lead these groups that are also going to be there. Because again, as we've said, we don't know that we would have gotten farther with the because of all kinds of things. But one of the things that most of us that were there knew is that we were not well prepared. We would not have been able to do a good job even with testimony. We had you guys write testimony, which is great. But guess what? Because of the way these groups work, and the back and forth that happens, you really need to have somebody knowledgeable there to be able to answer questions on the fly. Okay? So that I know is, again, that's where, again, the funding comes in. And then schedule meetings, collect information from the members, submit the collected information on the timeline, and work with the mentor. That would be, again, that role of the liaison. Any comments on this from anybody, including Kathy, Jill, Patty, you guys that didn't get a chance to speak? But we did talk about it.
Well, as being a mentor in the past and actively involved. I know when we've talked about, when all of us advisors are meeting, that we are here for you. This may look like, well, I don't know if I can lead the connection. I don't know if I can, we're here to help you do that. We've done it. And you certainly we're not just putting you out there. And I mean, I know whoever I work with, I want a really close relationship to help you be successful within your group. So, it's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more and really build a relationship with all of us.
Yeah, I know some people did write, it's like, well, I'm not sure I'm qualified, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, you're all qualified. You were all qualified.
I didn't think I was qualified last year, and Jill, this is Melissa Obraka, and Jill Grasnick was amazing, and I called Jill again because I have no problem doing implant maintenance again. But believe me, you have a team, and everybody's awesome, and you can totally do it.
Anybody here, I have full confidence in anybody here. The fact that you're stepping up to be in this meeting and to participate in this group means you're qualified, period. Because if you think the rest of us know what we're doing, we're all just making this up as we go along, because this is where we are truly leaders in the change of what we want to see. I mean, the way I describe it to other people is I'm not sitting back waiting for anybody else to do it for us anymore. The only way we're going to get anything changed is for us to work at it ourselves, and that's what we're doing. So anybody want to put their foot in the water, their toe in the water right now and say, hey, you know what, I will try and do this liaison thing?
I will, Patty. This is Susan.
Who is that?
I will.
Thank you, Susan. Susan is, okay, let me go back. I'm going to match it up then. Susan, what I do with it. Okay, Susan obviously is going to do oral cancer. Jamie?
I'm on it, Patty. Put me down.
What are you going to do, the non-therapeutic?
Of course.
Okay. Melissa, I know you're crazy and you got time. You got your time challenge, but yes, no.
You know I'm on it for you, Patty.
Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, I'm so good at I'm sorry. Okay, I need somebody that's going to work on the Profi codes. I'm going to put you, Melissa. Oh,
this is Tasha. I can focus on Profi codes.
Who was that?
Tasha.
Tasha. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Tasha just. Okay, I need one more. Remove the language.
I'll work on that.
Who's that?
Patty Mills. Correcty.
All right, Patty. Patty, what are we gonna call you Patty Mills or Patty Correcty? Patty Mills Correcty. There we go. All right, so we have our leaders. Now, for the rest of you, I hope that you're going to help sign on to one of these groups. Leaders, do you want me to send something out to ask what committees they want to be on?
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. Melissa, just so you know, one of the results of our poll, just so everybody knows, let me reiterate, is that we have, I know I'm making stuff dizzy, guys, but where is it? The days for meetings are Sunday, Tuesday, Monday. You guys are all welcome to use my GoToMeeting subscription. I don't think we give you two at the same time, but we'll figure a workaround on that one. But this is exciting. Now, we also say it does not limit anybody else from attending the CMC. And we're going to work really hard to get funding for as many people as possible that can come. And anybody's got some funding ideas, hey, more than happy to listen to it, entertain it. So I'm excited.
Hey,
so here's
hey, Patty, what are those dates? What are those dates again for the CMC meeting?
CMC is the 13th and 14th
12th and 13th.
of March. But again, even this past year, that's all the way back up here. Even this past year, they had with 148, Kathy, they still got it in one day.
Patty, I think it's actually the 13th and 14th.
13th and 14th is what it is? Okay.
No,
Yeah,
nope, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It's the 12th and 13th. Thursday the 12th and Friday the 13th.
Right.
So most likely it's the 12th.
The 12th, yeah.
12th, right. Which is a Thursday. So you come in on Wednesday, stay till Thursday.
We all go out to dinner together the night.
And we all got to dinner together and strategize. Yep.
The night before. But sometimes you can actually leave. You could actually get out of Chicago on Thursday night late, but you could get there.
Yep. But that's details for later. We help determine the future. Again, I'm going to ask you guys to volunteer. I appreciate every single thing. We're really making a difference. Again, our timeline is, and so leaders, we've got to get on this as quickly as possible if we're going to get our first level of submissions, connections, or whatever. I did invite Alan Friedel to be an advisor to our group. I haven't gotten a response from him, but if nothing else, I'm going to pick his brain and try to get the contact information for the people that sit on the CMC. Until we get their contact information, it makes it a little more challenging. I did set up our next meeting of this group, the full group, for the 14th of July. Again, that's on the calendar. All the dates are on the calendar that I have on my website. Until then, you email me, text me. Again, we're creating a new recipe for success. Any other comments, questions? All right.
Yeah, I'm going to need help.
Who is that?
I haven't done this before.
Susan.
Susan, Melissa, Jamie. You know what? We'll figure out which of us is going to help mentor you, okay? Because you will have either Jill or Kathy or me or Patty or Paige or Linda Jorgensen. All of us one of us will mentor you specifically. Now, one of the things about mentors are the ones that are actually coming out with the paperwork. We're not going to have Kathy write up all of the things. We're going to learn if we're submitting them. Kathy can mentor us, but she's not ended up writing them. Right, Kathy?
Yes, I will help write them, but no, I'm not going to do that because everybody else, it's not that hard, really. There's some in fact, I've been writing out some key concepts to think about as you're filling out those forms that should help.
Yep. Terrific. So again, think about what committee you're going to be on. Those of you that are here, but I'm going to put out a quick survey monkey to ask people, okay? So we can get our committees together and going. Leaders, we'll also be in touch with you because if we want to do a mentor leaders meeting prior to that too, we'll do that, okay? All right, guys. You're an amazing group. We got a recipe for success. We're going to do it different. We're going to stir the pot differently this time around. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you, liaisons, for volunteering.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, thanks, everybody. Good night.